individuals that are still parking. I hear the parking lot's a little messy right now, so we'll start at about 6:05.
I might reach out to you then.
Why would you say
I will text you.
you need to move?
Yep.
Because Penny and I were matching apparently.
Might go back after.
We're wearing a uniform.
I'm over here.
I know.
By not quite age, but like close.
Well, JV hasn't.
Wow.
He might actually. He's awesome. He might.
Why?
He's just awesome.
Olivia, did you buy your prom ticket?
I did indeed. Don't worry.
You got your dress?
Yeah. So they were.
Yeah.
You want to see a picture?
Yes. of
Okay.
course I
Good.
do.
No identification.
Oh, like.
I just got big first.
Usually have a type pen. It's on my back.
Yeah, I know my middle C.
See, this is my script.
It just comes with me everywhere. I know, I printed.
My favorite part about these meetings is the food. So finally,
Great minds think alike.
Exactly.
I like it.
I should have gone home. I did go home.
Should I have them?
And then she show you, and she's like, "No, you match with her."
The cool part? I got the right in for that.
Third right in?
Yeah,
So like viola?
yeah.
Thank you. Oh, okay.
Yep, yep. Thank you so much.
So we'll go ahead and get started. Before I do call the meeting to order, I just want to remind everyone that our meetings are live streamed and they're also posted on our school's YouTube website for individuals to view at a later date. So good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Parent Teacher Advisory Committee meeting of Community High School District 94. It is now 6:04 p.m. on April 14th, 2026. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to restate the purpose of this committee. We serve as an advisory body to the administration and at times to the Board of Education. Our role is to discuss topics relevant to our school community and, when appropriate, make recommendations regarding procedures or policies. Thank you for your continued commitment and participation in this important work. We'll now proceed to roll call. Please state your name and role for the record. So I will begin. My name is Limaris Puello, principal.
Jenna Wint, Director of Culture and Climate.
Janet Hurtado, Dean.
Megan Payleitner, Director of Specialized Services.
Rosalba Rodriguez, parent.
Isaiah Sylvester, student representative.
Olivia Zerko, student.
Sneha George, student.
Edgar Hernandez, student.
Dylan Galvin, student.
Emily Santiago, student.
Debbie Krogowski, parent. Christina Sladek, teacher.
Brittany Nelson, teacher.
Stephanie Kiesel, school psychologist.
Miriam Johnson, school social worker.
Nina Durkin, parent.
Blanca Ruiz, support staff.
Penny Munoz, board member.
Teresa Ocon, family outreach coordinator.
Thank you. We'll move into public participation. This is a portion of the meeting where members of the public may address the committee on any topic related to the work of this body. Each speaker will have up to 5 minutes a total. Public comment time will not exceed 30 minutes. In accordance with state law, committee members and administrators will not engage in dialogue during this portion, but we must listen carefully when appropriate and follow up later after the meeting. Are there any members of the public wishing to make public comment at this time? There are no public comments. We will move on to the next item on the agenda. So that takes us to the approval of minutes. In your packets, you have a copy of the minutes from our October 15th, 2025 meeting. Please take a moment to review those meeting minutes if you have not. And if there are any questions, comments regarding the minutes, you can please ask those at this point. Are there any comments or questions regarding the minutes? If there are none, is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Seconded.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the October 15th, 2025 meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The motion carries. The minutes are approved. We'll move into the discussion topics. The discussion topics will be presented by Jenna Wint, our Director of Culture and Climate.
Good evening, everybody. So at this time, we'll start with attendance. So here's our average daily attendance, or ADA, over the past 5 years. When we met last fall, the attendance was right at 92.45%, which was a little higher than where we are currently seated right now. As well, it was higher than our overall trends for the previous years. At that time, we had students really excited about homecoming. It's the beginning of the year. There's a lot of fresh starts, fresh excitements that happens. And so we did anticipate that being a little higher. Currently, we are sitting just below where we were for last year and the year prior. But it's a snapshot in time. It's a work in progress. I think, there's still a lot of time left in the school year. And just because this is this number, it doesn't mean that our work is done, right? We still want kids to attend as much as possible. Continuing that effort and continuing to get students to engage in the educational process doesn't end, even though that's where we are at. Any questions about ADA? We'll move into our chronic absenteeism, which refers to students who miss 10% or more of a school year. So that's 18 days. We are trending positively right now. We were at 29.6 for last year, and we are right now at 29.0. I would give some credit to the work of the attendance PLC group and our efforts in really focusing on the educational component, sending out student emails with where students are and related to their attendance percentage, number of absences, excused and unexcused. This has been a priority focus for us this year of really getting students to know their numbers, and will continue to be a priority for next year as well. Questions on this? Okay. Chronic truancy is students who miss 5% or more. So that's 9 days overall over the course of the entire school year. So that number is also trending down, which is great news for both of those two last slides. This means we are going in the right direction. I think sometimes you see a lower number and you think that's a bad thing, but this means our number of students who are missing is actually less. So that's very good. We are celebrating as well through the work of the attendance PLT. After first semester attendance, we did celebrate our students who had improved attendance with attendance certificates. There were students who received cookies as well. For those students who are achieving that essential standard of attendance at 95% or better, which is where we want all of our students to be at. But we did recognize the students who had been working on their attendance and who had consistently improved over the several month period. So I think all of these efforts really contribute to this positive change that we are seeing. It's kind of good to see the numbers actually reflect the work that we are doing. So with that in mind, though, there are still kiddos that we are really concerned about, right? That number is still large. We are in line with DuPage County, other neighboring districts around us. So what are we doing about it? Well, it starts really at intervention. So I'm going to refer back again to the attendance PLT. And what our focus is. So our focus has been on not only identifying those students, but then really working on the educational component. Students don't necessarily see that correlation between coming to school and their success. They sometimes feel like, it doesn't matter if I miss a day, it'll be okay. But making them aware of what that percentage is, why attendance is important, definitely is driving our efforts as a team. So we have made these posters that have been available and displayed around the school. Various members of the PLT team did go through and put them up in both English and Spanish around the building about the importance of attendance, strong attendance, and the benefits of coming to school. Still to come, there will be an attendance survey given to students in DEN that will ask them for various things. What motivates them to come to school? If they don't come to school a day, what's the largest factor for that? Is there one bigger factor that mostly influences that decision? And then, of course, we offer supports and follow-up for those students as well. This will be a time that we are really distributing this survey to our students and getting that feedback exactly through detailed forms, whereas before we've really just been doing informal conversations with families and students and trying to figure out what exactly is preventing them from coming to school and how we can help them overcome it. When we look at these level of interventions, I view the attendance PLC as tier 1, so that overarching what all students are getting, all students are receiving that exact same message about the importance of education. And then obviously as we work through that, what students need additional support, either in a group setting or more individualized support, and how can we motivate those kids and get them to attend on a more regular basis. So like I said, attendance PLT has been overall that tier 1 for all students, and then we do have individual interventions. So what do those look like? Those are individual meetings that happen with students and either some member of the dean's office, social workers, counselors, any type of teacher even here that we are trying to work on them to come to school. We do have parent meetings as well, and a lot of times that focus is on that relationship between that student and that individual to figure out what we can do to help them. It's hard to admit for students when they have a problem and they're struggling with something, right? So who is their trusted adult that they feel comfortable explaining what's really preventing them from coming? And how can we use that information to drive some of our decisions and get that student the help and support that they need? So that relationship piece there is so important. Phone calls have been used a variety of different ways. We do robocalls twice a day, as well as updates for parents when we do have them as follow-ups to meetings, as well as just giving little shout-outs that your kid's doing great. They made it to 4 classes today on time. They're doing great, no tardies, all of that. The other thing we have started implementing are immediate phone calls. So when students have been ditching a class, we bring them into the office. They call their parent right away and explain what they were found doing, why they weren't in class, and they have that difficult conversation with their parent, obviously with the support of us as well. Home visits occur from a variety of different people. If these are kids who are just not coming at all, that is definitely a home visit, but then there will be some who just really struggle with getting here in the morning. So if we can go over and see if there's anything we can do to help. So those are done by the dean specialists. The counselors have gone, social workers, deans, family outreach does a lot as well. So that whole team approach, which I will talk about here in a minute. Some things we are really trialing with some various students who are really struggling is attendance goal setting. So trying to work on that percentage of attendance that they are in the building, giving them an achievable goal, finding success for them, and rewarding them when they are doing what they are supposed to do and making that progress. So we really work on creating that individual plan with the students, working on smaller and larger term goals, which is a good skill set for any type of them for their life, and then really getting that student input and their choice on what they want to be working towards for a reward. Is it a snack? Is it the ability to just maybe like order in pizza? Is it something special that maybe would really motivate them because they are making that progress and that should be celebrated? As I mentioned, it is a team approach, so no person is doing this all alone. It does take the lift of several different people, but it's also really important that we all keep in that team mindset, because when we do our problem-solving teams and we are meeting, we all know exactly who the student is, what the message is, and then we can deliver that consistent messaging to that student throughout the day. So if I know a kid is working towards an attendance goal, I can say, hey, like I heard you've been doing really good, and I heard you're working towards whatever reward that they're looking for. So we can reinforce that same message, and then it does take the bigger high school feel and make it just feel a little more small and feel like they're not gonna just fall under the cracks, right? At the same time, we do realize that we can't do it alone. We will try everything that we can here, but we do need support outside of here. So family outreach, the ROE is very helpful, as well as our social workers referring for additional mental health services that students might be needing. But it's definitely looking at that student. This is not a progression, so it's not step 1 and then we're gonna do 2, 3, 4, right? There's no one size fits all. Every student and family is so unique, and we have to keep that in our focus through everything we do. So it's very a la carte. We might have meetings with one, and then we might go right to a home visit. We might start with a home visit. It just totally depends. But looking through those conversations, really, what are they telling us through those conversations so we can figure out creative ways and/or find other supports that they need to then find them success. Questions? Comments?
Yeah, so at this time, we'll invite committee members to any feedback or ask any questions.
When family outreach counselors or social workers are reaching to those families, are they getting that support that it's needed? Are they finding the cost of what it's costing the student to miss the school? Is there any data that can show what the numbers are, or any any important that it needs to be shared, so that way we can help those families? Like, is there any?
So we haven't done a great job of keeping track of looking for patterns. I think just through conversations, family outreach would say, these are things we keep hearing. Deans would say the same thing. But looking really at that attendance survey to find out through those kids what they are identifying as their main struggles, right? And how we can help them. It will definitely help. We can also then look at what their attendance rate was, and those kids who maybe fell between 75 to 90%, what did those kids say? What did the kids who are coming at 95% saying? What's motivating them? What is helping them get here? So this will be the first time, and I'm really excited about using it to be more of a formalized process so we can have that to reference back to.
Be a great
Tool.
data to
Yes.
support those students who are maybe struggling, whether it's emotional, is it financially, and knowing too, it will be important to know if those students at the beginning, were they attending and then did their attendance went down, or is it the opposite way, or what's the pattern? Like you said, I think it's important too.
Yeah, we look at that, and so we look at those students who have gone up, and we look at the students who have gone down. So like, they may have started out the semester very strong at 95%, and then where are they at now? Are they at 87? Like, what happened? Did they have a bad month? You know, or is it something that they've been slowly on a decline for? So that is definitely starting the work of our attendance PLT group.
I have a big voice, I don't. Is there a way that you can flip the script? For example, I'm assuming you guys go to school every day.
No.
For the most part. I'm assuming that you guys are like 95%, right? What makes you come to school?
My mom.
Okay.
If I didn't go to school, my mom would be really mad at me, and I don't really need her that mad at me.
Yep.
But also, I don't have the best attendance. I am one to say that last semester I missed like too many days of school. Let's just say that. And
Okay.
but also like I think like I realized that, and I think like as somebody who cares a lot about like my education and stuff, not saying like a lot of people don't, but like I wanted to come to school, but I mean I was sick or I had field trips or whatever. But yeah, so my mom motivates me to come to school, because if I didn't come to school, she wouldn't be very happy with me. Happy mom, happy life. That's what I'm gonna say.
I think it's education, just like the thought about your future in general is the hype of coming.
So when I say flip the script, you can use the positive stories. Look what we can offer to you. You want to come to school. There are kids who just don't like school, right?
100%.
I totally get that. So think of a reason to get them in the door. And you have a student panel who I'm sure is willing to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you pick out the good and sell it to those students who are struggling. And I'm not talking struggling for demographic reasons we're not discussing. Homelessness, lack of transportation, absolutely no parent oversight at home. To me, that's a totally different situation that has to be dealt with. I'm talking the kids who absolutely can get to school and don't. It's harder to have the impact on the kids who need more than just educational support. For those who need educational support, the positive stories will flip that script, in my opinion. Because you're right, if my kids didn't go to school, they're done for.
Oh, tell me about
Like,
it. If
go
my mom
out,
ever found
get a
out I was
job, and
skipping a
figure it
class,
out.
you would never see me again.
And mine are over 18, so it's like,
Yeah.
you're done. So I get your mom. Good mom. Nina Durkin. So I have a transition student and I have a senior.
Okay.
So we're
I'm gonna
there.
piggyback off you because I think what you said, it was the key. What resonated most with about what you said is the sense of belonging. That the survey is a great idea, and I think it's gonna help inform a lot of what we're kind of wondering about. But I think really getting down to the bones and figuring out why, or if these students, that sense of nurturing and belonging within the building. And sometimes the survey won't inform on that. So I think that collectively, talking to students and really hearing the whys and beginning with students that already get here is most valuable. I completely agree with you. And diving into their 3-2-1 and figuring out, because I can say that at least at the 8th grade level, I have been a part of home visiting over the summer. That begins pretty like early, like late July, early August. And we were visiting as part of the family liaison team, we were visiting with deans, and it really, really held a lot of our students accountable. And especially with the 8th grade, they know they're not gonna, or could possibly not graduate and transition into high school, and they don't wanna do that, they wanna come here. So it's really building those relationships early over the summer. And in 7th grade, that somebody would be knocking on their door, and we came through. So we were there, and when they saw us, they're like, oh, you really did come. So I think it's that accountability piece. And then once we went to the homes, once we did those home visits, we really started to find out that students were, maybe didn't feel like they were connecting with the teacher, or didn't feel like they understood, and because they had so many academic gaps and felt like they were gonna be made fun of, or there's something going on in the home that we didn't know about. So really those home visits by those key people, and our SRO and our deans will go back in the morning once they don't come in the morning, and we will go to their house and we will offer to, you know, have the little powwow that we need to do, and then the parent will typically bring them back to the school. But they know that we will keep going to that house until they come back to school.
And I think that's absolutely fantastic. But that, and I agree, it is not one size fits all. You've got to accommodate. And I agree with the sense of belonging, having a kiddo both kiddos who don't really fit in, and have dealt with it.
And surveys are great, because I do feel like we do need that, but there's so much more to the conversation, and I think you only.
Yes, absolutely, because surveys are, you can only interpret the question in front of you if someone answers it.
And also too, like when you in truancy, and sometimes you realize like, oh, you know, this kiddo was never referred. Because they don't call them officers now, they call them interventionists, I think. It's easier to partner with them because sometimes they will have insight on maybe a kiddo that was identified as truant in elementary school. And it's a lot more meaningful at that point, because we both know how we can support the family.
And I'm not saying home visits are bad.
Right.
I'm saying home visits are very time consuming. You're not gonna get to every home that needs a visit. So if there's anything you can do, not to avoid a home visit, but to supplement or reach out in lieu of a home visit in certain cases, give them a reason to come to school and give them the pros that they may not realize. And coming from peers is a lot different than moms, dads, school administrators, that they're like, okay, whatever, you're an adult, I'm not listening to you.
Also, like, who would be doing the home visits? Because, like, I feel like if Mrs. Hurtado showed up at my house, like, if I was, like, a chronically truant student, I never went to class, like, and I know Mrs. Hurtado is the one to always tell me, like, I need to go to class. I'm like, I hate this lady. I don't actually, I promise. But, like, if that were me in this situation, like, I hate this lady. I do not want this lady to come to my house. I won't tell her anything about my personal life. Like, that could affect your results as well. Whereas like if I saw Miss Wynn and Miss Wynn is always like, hey Olivia, like, you know, it's time to go to class, like we gotta go to class, you know, like, you know, I would be like, okay, I guess I'll talk to her. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you think that the gap is like who they are comfortable telling? Because like I think like they, not to say that seeing you as like an angry face, but like you're very like, you know, we gotta go to class, like it's time to go to class, you know what I mean? Like, so I feel like a lot of students won't appreciate you trying to like interject if they don't really see you as someone like they're willing to open up to. So like, is there any way that we could like get people who like they're more comfortable with to show up to their homes, or is like, do you have to be specially trained, or like?
Oh, you don't have to be especially trained.
Usually I'm the one that does the conversation.
Okay, well I just thought about her because she's a dean, and I was like, okay, well,
Like
scary lady.
sometimes like it starts with them, but then when they get to me, I'm the one that I go and look for not only the student, but I'm trying to look for the parents. And going back with what you asked, we do keep like data of like when my department received like a referral, we do know if they needed like financial assistance, or we refer them to mental health, or we refer them to a resource in the community that it was a need, or we help them get to the shelter or stuff like that. We do have data. Like we can definitely share data that the referrals that they come, like, because I'm tier 3, so I don't get to see all the kids that are missing, only the ones that are really truant.
And I will add, because I think that's a very valid point that you bring up, is I do love that we work as a team, because we have situations where we're like, ooh, I think maybe we need to be a social worker and myself. Sometimes I'm like, our SRO, you gotta come with me, because we gotta really show up, and now this is the 10th time we're showing up here, and we need to like show them that we mean business. But yeah, we definitely do try to take that in consideration as much as we can. Sometimes like we don't know the students that well, that we can be like, oh, who would be the best fit? But that's definitely something that like we could even continue to do better on. It's like, who is being more purposeful of who's showing up at the house, and like who has a connection with this kid already, and like that's going to be more of a positive outcome.
Yeah, because like I feel like you would be more open to like talking to someone like you're more comfortable with than like sharing information with like a random stranger, you know what I mean? I think that would get you like more accurate information on like student life too.
The same way, like you said, your mom like motivates you and makes you go, right? So we're trying to find out who is that adult for those kids to be like, I don't want to disappoint you.
Yeah.
Like I did it yesterday. Like I came, I was at every class on time, like don't let me down. And those kids have it, but we have to figure out who that person is. And like everybody said, it takes time. And so it's not like, I mean, the survey is not the end all be all by any stretch of the imagination. The conversations and with the student, but then with the family, because what the mom will share with you, what the dad will share with you, even how different information you might get from both of them, it just takes time.
And if you're coming from a place of we're here to help.
Yes.
Not we're here to crucify you because your kid's not in school.
Exactly.
Because parents will shut down.
So do your counselors, I mean, I'm sure they keep files on all of your students, but is one of the questions that they ask the students and the parents are, what are 3 adults in this building that have a super strong connection with your kid, or that your kid looks up to, appreciates, somebody that motivates them? Because that's an opportunity too to keep a list in the student's file of either the parents have a connection with a teacher or a dean or a counselor, and then also the kids can list who they feel like they have a connection within the building. Because then you just have more resources available.
They do a trusted adult survey, so we do know to, they are naming one person, but I think like a 3 is a great idea, because if that person's not in or something like that, maybe there's other people.
I'm gonna comment something close by. We're focusing on the ones that are not coming. My name is Blanca, I work in Student Research Center, so it's kind of the kids that don't like to come to school. But what I'm thinking too is, what about the ones that do come, but they're not going into classes? Because I want to say those are, like, if we can get those with them to just motivate them to just go to class, then at least we got a number that now it's attending to class, because they're here in the class, in the school,
but they're not attending class. And see, even in our class, we get them because when they do connection, they come to your class. So I see like little Johnny came to the class, but then I'm like, you didn't go to any other classes. What's going on? And what you said, it's true. Some of them, they're so behind that they feel that the teachers are just not going to be, happy. And they're just going to be like, where have you been here? Or something like that. So I think it's to work with the ones that we have here to encourage them to go to class or make those connections, because that's what I see more too.
Where are they in the building that they're not in class? They're in the building but not in class?
Yes.
Okay, we had a smoking bathroom in my high school. Smoking is very bad, don't do it.
I mean, like since the kids like stopped smoking, they just started vaping.
Okay, well, but we were not allowed to hang out in there to smoke during class. You had to smoke during your passing periods. So are bathrooms getting swept or anything here?
They are. They are.
Because I'm like, you're in the school, but you're not in class. Where are you?
Don't worry. We could talk about this in a couple slides. I have it for you.
My child would get murdered for that. No, not literally.
Any other comments before we move to discipline?
And then the other one I wanted to say, for attending goal setting, is it something that they share it to the teachers or even support staff? Because in SRC, we do goal setting. It would be nice if they can share it, because if that kid has that goal, then definitely we would encourage it during every week that we do goal setting to do their attendance goal.
And I just want to add
Sorry.
that, like, whatever she's saying is right, because our freshman year, I was in SRC because I football injury, broke everything but ACL, and I was in SRC and I missed 2 weeks of school because they help you out, and that was beginning of my freshman year. I didn't know any teachers, so she was like, I think it's just the trust in the teacher with this specific student will get you very far in whatever you're trying to accomplish.
Good job.
So I think that SRC and like any kind of student resources classes is like a really good thing. I feel like whatever y'all.
Okay, switching over to discipline. So these are a total number of suspensions over the past 5 years. They are broken down by ISS and OSS. For context, in the fall when we met, we were at 96 in-school suspensions and 9 out-of-school suspensions. And we currently are below where we ended up for last year. But again, we still have like 7 weeks to go. So, same thing as attendance, we keep working on it.
What are the reasons for the suspensions for the most part?
Great.
Go fights, vaping.
It's like I asked you to ask these questions. Let's start with out of school suspensions. So this year we are at 56 total for out of school suspensions. Definite goal is to reach that. Obviously, back in 2011 or 2021, 2022, we had 11. That's coming off of COVID. That number is very low, but we are below where we were for last year, significantly below from 2 years ago, and still continues to be a goal to reduce it. So when we look at what are the reasons for the out-of-school suspensions, fighting this year is attributing for 57% of overall OSSs. That's a lot of S's. Last year it was 42%. And this February and March, we had 9 fights. So that was a total of 18 suspensions from that. So that number is definitely very high. I will talk about the behavior committee a little bit later, but this is stuff that these data numbers will come to the behavior committee and we will look at these things. Looking at how many they're occurring, obviously fighting is the biggest concern, and like what months we see those upticks in to deliver specially designed instruction through DEN about peer conflict, peer mediation, those things, so we can be a little more proactive in that. So that's still to come.
What does inappropriate behavior mean?
Inappropriate behavior is a little bit more of a catch-all, I would say. So it could be swearing at a teacher, for example, which sometimes then would go under gross disrespect. So it just kind of depends. Any other specifics you want to add?
We're not talking sex in the hallway.
No.
Okay.
Inappropriate,
No.
just like it doesn't fall under these nicely in these other. Okay, but that's a fair.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
Yes.
fair.
I mean, that would really fall under it, right?
Yeah. It'd be inappropriate.
It would be very inappropriate.
We were all high schoolers, come on.
Yeah. It kind of becomes a catch-all.
Okay.
So. And like misconduct really is classroom misconduct, so, which very often could be similar under inappropriate behavior.
I would say a lot of those inappropriate behavior ends up being like the way that students are speaking to adults, like that, like yeah.
In-school suspensions over the last 5 years, it's just the general numbers. Again, we are below where we were last year. There's still time to go, but hopefully we still end up that number as well. And then here are the incidents that result in ISS. So because of the spacing, classroom is classroom misconduct, and then inappropriate is inappropriate behavior. So.
Wait, why does it say fighting on there, but fighting on the other one? Is it like recording a fight? Oh, okay.
That would be probably classified as inappropriate behavior. But there's a specific one that I can't go into details about that one incident.
It's a less severe
Yes.
Okay.
incident that it does involve some sort of
Physical altercation.
Okay.
So obviously, at this, the most concerning are the truant to class and tardy to class. So when we look at tardiness, we are at 37.17% of our in-school suspensions are due to tardiness.
Lock the doors at 8 on the nose.
Yes, so that was a policy that started at the beginning of this year, and we were very, very strict with it. So our numbers, even in the fall, were up. So I am not surprised that when we pulled this data and we look at it again, we are higher.
Can I ask a question about that, though?
Yeah.
So is it less disruptive to walk in 30 seconds late to a class before the teacher has started, or more disruptive to walk in 5 to 10 minutes late, because now you have to go to the office, get your tardy slip, and now you're pissed off, so you're going to take your sweet time getting back to class?
So the locking of the doors is twofold. So the first is safety and security of the building.
100%.
So that's where that comes into play. And teachers have done a better job this year of locking and keeping those doors locked, which is kind of annoying when you go and you're trying to go get a kid out of class. We always have to knock or use a key to open it, right? But teachers did get on board with just being a little more vigilant about enforcing tardiness, I think, in general. The tardiness of going to get a late pass, that has not shifted. That has been the same practice as it had been in years past.
Right, but I still feel it's more disruptive to walk in 5 to 10 minutes late than 30 seconds before a class has started. In general, I think it is less disruptive.
Can I speak to that?
Yes.
So as a teacher, with the change that we had with locking the doors, I honestly believe that it has improved. It is definitely more distracting when students come straggling in 20, 30 seconds late, because there's no sense of we are starting the class at this time. And so even though kids may be, strolling in 5, 10, 15 minutes late with that tardy pass, I've already begun the class and we already have our set procedure, already begun. And then that kid just needs to fall in line with whatever the rest of the class is doing. So waiting for kids to come in, it's definitely more disruptive.
Yeah, I agree with Ms. Leda, because in my bio class, there's like at least 3 or 4 kids who comes in late, like every 10 minutes. And I'm just like trying to lock in, because I got an F in that class. I'm not. Yeah, and I'm trying to lock in for finals especially. And And I always see them coming late, and I was like, like, can they just come like early?
Shout out to Miss Slade, I got late to your class.
You're good, you're right on
Yes, ma'am.
time.
Yes, ma'am.
You even helped me close that door many days, too.
Yes, ma'am. Very good.
Appreciate you.
But I think something good that you guys did is you put like tardy stations so they didn't have to like struggle. That was a good idea. Like, cause I don't know when, if it was at the beginning of the year, that there was one on the second floor, one on the third floor, so they didn't have to go all the way down, so.
Yeah, so that's something that we are talking about through the behavior committee, but it's with report running for consequences, and what that looks like is where the hiccup is. So, but there's definitely been conversations within our behavior committee about that. Okay. So, like Nina said, and Blanca, they're very excited about. So truancy to class. So this number has continued, anything over 20% is in like that reddish color. And as you see, truant to class has just upticked over the last 4 years consecutively, which is definitely a cause for concern. We do talk to kids all the time. And a lot of times that same feeling, I think that Penny talked about earlier, there's a lot of kids who, especially towards the end of the semester, feel like I have a 9%, that I'm not gonna pass, what does it matter if I go? And we see and kind of hear that same message reiterated through several students, like there's no chance in me passing, does it even matter? So also, there's a lot of peer excitement about missing during the lunch periods. You know, if you're not doing so well in a class and it happens to be 4 or 5, they enjoy a lovely longer lunch break because I'm not going to pass that class, and they feel like there's no consequence for missing that. So I think what we are looking at, similar to what motivates them, the success that we do have from these students, is really setting the idea of what is expected from here, and like this is what we celebrate. It's a mind shift. Like it is a mindset, and like until like we get everybody on the same page going the same direction, we're really trying to paddle real hard uphill, right? So it's definitely how are we framing those conversations from staff to students, from students to students? Are they able to explain why it's beneficial to go to class, why this activity is important, and is the curriculum relevant and exciting, right? Like, are we, even if I don't really want to do physics, like, I don't know how this is going to be relevant to me, right? But can I buy into that relationship with the teacher and be like, okay, well, I hate everything about physics, but I like you, so I'll come, right? So that relationship piece. So this is definitely something that I will continue to discuss with the attendance PLT, and really looking at, it does become a very overwhelming data set when you pull attendance by period and all of that. So it because there's 2,000 students plus 10 periods of the day, it is a thing. So definitely something that we will continue to focus on and look at. Yes?
Do you also separate that data based on class period, based on subject, and based on teacher? Do you have trends where there are certain classes that are missed frequently?
So we definitely looked at trying to do that, and the same thing happened. Like, are we noticing that, you know, a particular subject area or division is really excited, like they seem to have the least amount? Or like, does Mrs. Sladek, like nobody misses her class, you know? And like, what is going on? You know, what are you doing? And then how are we using those teachers to be the exemplary, you know, models for other staff? In addition, we every day during den, I get all of my steps in and I escort students to class. And so when we drop them off at the door, are they being met by Mrs. Nelson like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy to see you. Thank you for coming. I've been worried about you. You know, that's the approach that we want to have happen, right? The kids are welcomed back. It's a new day. It's a new period. Sure, you missed the last 12 days, right? But starting off on that negative tone isn't going to change the behavior. The welcomingness in that relationship is what's going to try to get them to re-engage.
In the classroom culture, like the peers missing each other too, and holding, why aren't you here? You need to come back. I'll help you catch up. So some of the language they use with each other too.
Tell me a little bit about the student that you just described right now, a student that misses 12 days. That intervention or that connection with the teacher. had a student out for 12 days. Is this teacher calling that, or not the student, but the parent, the family? Is that the first point of contact, or what does that first point of contact look like?
So it really depends. It should be starting at the dean specialist level, and they are calling. Now, obviously, we want everybody to, is this a kid who's just missing that one period? Or is this a kid who's missing 12 days consecutively? 12 days consecutively, we have a real big problem, right? So it should be starting with the dean specialist, making that phone call home, going to see the house, seeing what's going on. We also have a process in place where it's working through what we refer to as our orange sheet. And it goes through consecutive absences for kids. So it starts with the dean specialist, it goes to the counselor, we loop in the social worker, it goes to the dean, it goes to family outreach, we have a meeting, and really trying, my goal is that we are really working as a team and informing the teachers of what is going on. Because ultimately, you worry about that kid, right? Like, what's happening to them? I have no idea. But it's like, oh, no, so-and-so and so-and-so is working on it, right? And so then, I can help them get back when they do come back. Ideally, there's some type of, if it's that they're missing one particular class, right? Like, why? What's the deal? And then can we bring that teacher and the student down together with the dean and say, like, let's work this out? Like, did I upset you? Like, what was the misunderstanding? How do we move forward? Because ultimately, that's what we want for them. Kids are going to have conflict throughout their whole life, but it's teaching them that skill of, like, you're going to be misunderstood or you're going to take offense to something, but how can we take that incident and move forward?
Yeah, I guess I'm just kind of, because even though I completely understand like that kind of chain of command or communication, I guess is what I'm saying, but if a teacher tells me like, oh, where were you second hour, it's going to hold me much more accountable because I have to look at her or him every day versus somebody that I don't know that is just a name on a piece of paper technically, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, or that student that is maybe going to the lunchroom and not going to class and kind of roaming, are they going to all of a sudden go to the dean special? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I just think like, I think I'd love to hear a little bit more of like exploring that initial like accountability piece and what that looks like once we kind of see, the teachers that are having a lot of success and where their attendance numbers are pretty high. I'd love to hear about what they're doing or how they're connecting with a kid that, again, has been missed because of an injury or has been out of the class and now feels so far behind and could possibly feel either super frustrated or embarrassed or not know how to ask for help. I just kind of want to hear more about what that would look like.
Teachers, do you have any feedback or insight on what you do when you've had kids who have missed several days in a row, either whole day or just your period?
So when they come back, that is exactly how I greet them. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're back. Like, ooh, you missed a lot, but don't worry, we're gonna get you caught up. And, I'll give them like maybe a handful of things depending on how much they've missed. I'll give them copies of my keys, copies of my notes, things that, so that they don't feel overwhelmed with work that they've missed. And I'll just kind of ask them to work on the essential parts of whatever we're doing that given day and kind of encourage them that, all I'm asking for is their participation, whether they 100% get it or not, doesn't matter. Like, just give me what you can today, just so it's, not too strict of a learning environment for them and they're just getting, reacclimated to being back in my classroom.
What type of support is in place for the kids who miss all those days and then they go to the class and now they have to catch up with all that work? You cannot expect a child to do all that without the instruction of a teacher. What support is in plan for them?
So like teachers will work out usually.
Besides then,
individual things of what they are like the must-do stuff. There's that part of it. Like kids can go to academic support for additional support academically during DEN, and then after-school tutoring is also available. Teachers meet with kids all the time.
But I'm asking, is that going to be optional for the student, or is it going to be something that it's a must-do?
It's optional.
I think in SRC, I can tell you, because it's a program, when we have kids missing, but it's a team, like you said, it's a team effort. It's 3 adults in there. So I literally go to, lunches are, like Jenna said, it's the place where they go high. So they know when I am in there, and they even, you know, and I can tell so-and-so, I'm looking for this, and then they tell me, and then I go like, hey, I find you, let's go. I look for them. And then after a while, then they don't miss. But it's a team effort, and then once we find them, because it's a program that we have, then we know that we communicate with the teachers. The teachers, like Miss Lydak, she has worked with us. She'll be like, she's missing this, this, and this, the due date is this. So there's kind of like more like not optional, because now that since you're in this class. So I think, in your point, it would be nice if there would be a program for everybody that has that, like, we have them when it's optional, they have all the resource, but yeah, the kid has to go and do it themselves, and that's where we see that they're not doing it. Because even SRC, it's not, we only have them for an hour, then they're missing not just chemistry, they're missing math, they're missing this. So I constantly have to tell them, go to academic, but at the end, they come to me after school. And it's okay, because they build a relationship. But it is a team effort, and it has to be something like a program where they can help them to, like, you have to follow this.
I would say that our student services team with our counselors and social workers also work really closely with the teachers and the students, and kind of help triangulate some of that stuff too, where it's not hopefully just on the teacher, but coming up with a plan with student services of how they can kind of pull in their expertise and their knowledge of how to support and get the kid caught up too.
I was going to talk a little bit about that kind of like village mentality. So yeah, anytime that I have a kid that I haven't seen in a long time, I will always call home. I will try to hunt them down in other classes. Oftentimes what I have found, if I have kids that aren't showing up and I look at their trends, it's not that they're only not coming to my class, it's that they're like leaving kind of in the middle of the day and they're missing all of their afternoon classes, and they happen to have me 10th hour or something like that. So I'll find them in another class during a prep period so that I can touch base with them. But then so many times throughout the year, we'll have teachers look up the kid's schedule and send an email out and be like, hey, I'm not sure what's going on here. Does anybody have any information? I don't know why Johnny, is leaving halfway during the day. I haven't seen him. I'm worried about him. Does anybody have information? And then that way, like the teachers, and we always loop social workers and counselors in on that as well, just to kind of keep that communication going. And if anybody has some information, then we're able to share it with everybody.
So some things from our perspective, I really like that that you asked that question, and our department has been discussing what that could look like. And so I don't know what the timeline could or would be with something like that. I mean, going from elementary to middle school to high school, the bigger the school gets, it's like a bigger ship. It takes longer to turn. So anyhow, it's a great idea, and I hope we get there soon. Miss Ladek and I recently, we presented to about a third of the teachers on the idea of grit and relevancy. Part of the reason why we collaborated on it is I've seen her work with the students in various capacities, and I know she's good at those two things. That being said, trying to take on those two topics and make it such that they're workable to get teachers to move up to the next level. Even as a social worker, to be able to understand them such that I can communicate it well. It was difficult, but I think we made some headway. We learned a lot along the way, and there's further discussion to say, okay, we got to about a third of the teachers. How can we make it a better, and then get to more? So we're looking to move in that direction. But in regards to the phone calls home, one thing I appreciate is that as Ms. Wint has recently taken over this position, she's helped to raise the level of data that we have available to ourselves and organization, so that as a team, she mentioned this idea of like all moving in the same direction. That's, again, the bigger the organization, the harder it is to make that happen. But I found this year to be helpful, that organization of the data to move in that same direction, because I know that when I partner up with my counselors, that they're making certain phone calls for a reason, and it's targeted, and then I'm making certain phone calls for a reason, and it's targeted. And then what we can do afterwards is we can follow up with our specific list, and we can see, well, what has the outcome been? And so over the last couple of weeks, out of about somewhere between 30 and 40 students that we're tracking, we're able to write an email to somewhere between 15 and 20 of them and say, hey, good job for the improvement that you guys have been making. That's great. So at least for us, instead of just having a general understanding based off of interaction with people, we actually have more numbers to say, well, this is what we're looking at. The other thing too is today I had one of the parents from that list call me back today and say, hey, this is the situation for my son today. Would you be able to do this? And I found that to be great because that was directly related to this outreach effort into the homes. And so, you know, I think for us to be able to make a united effort to move forward, one, it takes time and it takes effort, but I'm seeing that move forward, and that makes me more excited. So anyways, I have a sliver of an understanding from the perspective of our department, but those are just some things to bring perspective.
So, if you're tardy to class and you're truant to class, you're missing work, your grade is going to go down. What are the consequences of a grade going down? I understand an in-school suspension, but at the end of the day, when you miss 12 days and there's an option to go make up the work and get help, what are you taking away from these kids? Are there any extracurriculars? Are there any sports? You shouldn't be allowed to play sports if you don't have good grades. You shouldn't be allowed to participate in extracurricular activities if you're truant to class habitually. So those are real consequences that probably have more meaning for kids than an in-school suspension during their lunchtime. I remember you mentioned, Isaiah, about homecoming. And if you had too many tardies, you didn't get to go to homecoming.
That's prom.
Well, same thing with homecoming.
No, I
too.
got the notice for my kid. If they have tardies, they don't get to go to prom.
Yeah.
They don't want to go to prom. They don't care about going to prom. That is not a consequence for them. What's a consequence for them is when mom says, you're not allowed to play in the pit orchestra for the musical if you don't get your butt to class. And
I just touch base on what you said. So, for example, my brother, right? Not to, throw my brother under the bus or anything, but he's not doing really good in school right now, right? His grades are going down really, really quick. But he's a track star. He won a state 2 years in a row to do track, He's like top 5 in the state right now for long jump as a freshman, right? So he couldn't go to his track meet yesterday because his grades is bad. He has to have the mindset that's saying, okay, I want to go continue to do track in order, like, I want to do track because, you want to make something of yourself, right? But if he can do that because his grades is, like, really, really bad, then again, touching base on what he said, is the kid who wants to have the thing that the motivation to actually go and do something. It's on them. It's not unlike the optional. It's optional if the kid wants it to be optional. The teachers don't want it to be optional, but if the kid is like, okay, I'm gonna probably show up, I'm gonna probably go, that's on them. That's not on like any of these young ladies. Ladies over here. Ladies over here, It's just that.
Call me a young lady.
It's just that it's on the kids, and that's basically what I'm just trying to say. That it's on the kids in order to go and get help and stuff.
I get you, but I will tell you, I would tell your brother, he's not allowed to run track.
Yeah.
Until he forcibly, now, you are mandated to go get extra help to try to get those grades up, and you shouldn't be allowed to do track.
That's
if your
how it is,
grades
like,
are bad.
yeah, if you haven't asked, you're not allowed to participate.
And I think the bigger consequence in the high school setting is if you don't pass the class, you're becoming credit deficient.
Yeah,
And
that's a
you're
huge
not
deal
gonna-
too.
So that often And I think that doesn't happen up until you get to high school. So
And this school has, no one's forcing anyone to graduate high school. They don't want to graduate, they don't care, but boy, they'll run in that track meet. I'm sorry.
And I think
2 Ds, you're done with sports until those Ds come up, or 1F. And that might motivate students to take their optional help and make it mandatory. Because what's important to your brother is running track so you can be a star and maybe get a scholarship somewhere. He's not going to get a scholarship if he doesn't have grades and doesn't get the right ACT score. There are minimum standards for any school to play sports. I'm not just talking D1. So I'm sure your brother's a great track star. He sounds amazing. He needs to get his grades up.
I think it's also just hard, like, talking personality-wise, too, like, as someone who's very motivated by the people around them and her goals for herself. I think it's just hard, like, not to throw a lot of the students under the bus, but I feel like a lot of the students I see around skipping class are the same people. Just because, like, they don't have, like, those people just can't find the motivation. Like, there's nothing... like they're known as the kids who skip class, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing motivating them, and I think it's hard, like, once you have no motivation, like, it's hard to, push somebody to be motivated, you know what I mean? I'm very, like I said, I'm very academically driven, and I think that's the reason why I'm here right now. I'm very outspoken, and, a lot of these kids aren't like me and don't have the same opportunities as me to be able to have the opportunities I do, but I also think, like, if you can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped, like, I can't go up to Miss Wynn and be like, Miss Wynn, you need to get to class, and she's like, well, I don't care, and then she walks away from me, you know what I mean? Like, you can't force the kids, like, yes, the option is there, but, like, it's whether they choose to take it or not, which is also, like, the hard thing, because, like, you can tell your dog so many times to sit, but whether they're going to sit or not is a different story, you know what I mean? So, like, you think, like, thinking about that, too, because, like, there could be kids who are, like, at home, struggling with mental health or, like, home issues, but there's also the kids who are just like, okay, whatever, like, school is school. So I think it's just, like, trying to find the balance and trying to accommodate and also think about, like, all the different, like, scenarios and circumstances that come along with, like, chronically truant or chronically absent, so.
And that's why we just have to keep trying.
Yeah.
Like, I think of a parent meeting that happened last week, and it was like, we have been in constant communication with this family about trying to get their daughter to go to class. And, like, if we aren't informing parents all the time and looping them in, like, they are such a wonderful resource and asset to us and are part of the team. And so we continue to have those conversations and bring them in for meetings and keep trying new things, because we're trying to find the one thing that does work, because what works for you is not going to work for him, it's not going to work for her, all of that.
So when you mention about the, you guys have attendance goal settings, and they talk about like a long plan or goals, will it be important to look at those students and look at their strengths and what they motivate them and work that way in order for them to, like, recognize those and, like, know right away what is that it makes them? Sometimes it's just something as simple as just maybe spending time drawing or just even listening to music and things, that are very little, but they can be very motivating for them.
That's why we include the student as part of that and let them really dictate what they want to see as their goals and what their rewards want to be too.
Okay.
Student choice.
What population are we really talking about? The school has 2,000 students. How many are we really talking about? Because you guys can't reach out to 2,000 students. That's impossible for anyone to do. So the outreach has to be a much smaller population. I get that. Outside of that small, these are the kids who never come to school. We all know who they are. What's that middle ground where you can actually reach them? Low-hanging fruit. Less effort gets you a better result. And that helps the kids, that helps the school, that helps everybody. I understand this, you have a specialized, isolated group here, then you have that middle population, then you have the kids you don't worry about. You guys probably fall on the kids you don't worry about. And if you do, you know where to get help. And I'm sure there are plenty of teachers who are available for help, including to your brother. But
So the big
what about the middle
the
ground?
big focus is that education piece at tier 1. What are we doing for all students and recognizing? But you know, through the MTSS structure, everybody will say like, "Oh my gosh, we have all these kids in tier 3 needing all of this support." That's not a tier 3 problem. That's a tier 1 problem. So that's been our focus. What does the education look like? What does that look like? What do the kids know? They've never been emailed or told what their attendance percentage has ever been until this year. Right now, we're on a monthly basis. I would love to make that more frequent, right? So kids are tracking that. Can we do a quick DEN thing? And the kids are tracking where they're at in DEN based on their attendance. All of that, but it has to start at tier 1 with the education and the conversations around what's good. Because I do agree with you, those kids that maybe are at 92, oh, I didn't realize this was important. And they'll just bloop, bubble up. Yep.
Or take the extracurricular away, force them to get extra help after school, and their grade comes up instantly.
So IHSA, they have to be passing 5 classes and had to have earned 2.5 credits this semester before to be
Five out
eligible.
of how many classes do they take? There are 10 periods.
Depends. 7
So 5 out of 7 they have to pass?
passing on a weekly
You guys are
basis.
too nice.
That's state rule. IHSA.
That's why we're number 47.
Then I have a quick question.
Yes.
You said that students are getting emails with their attendance data. Is that going to all students?
All students and all parents.
And parents. And how, you said that goes out monthly?
Monthly.
I got one. I have 0, 0, 0, 0.
Good job.
That's because you're wonderful, Isaiah.
Mine got the threat of prom and we both laughed.
Yes, ma'am.
It's higher than it was last
Well,
semester.
I'm a
That's all I
man.
care about.
So I have a question. So, first of all, I think that's awesome. But the students that we're talking about in that tier 3, those students are probably not checking their email. So how are we connecting with those students?
We have work to do. We have to start somewhere, right? So obviously those ones who are way up there, they're getting that one-on-one intervention in a variety of different settings. But are we doing something blanket across the board for all of those students in tier 3? No. It's more individualized based on their circumstances, as it should be, because their needs are that intense.
I was gonna say, like, once you get to that point, I feel like there's so many people involved talking to them that they may not get that, like, email or notice that email, but they're hearing it from us. Like, all of us are having conversations. Like, I'm having conversations about credits and I'm not a counselor, right? But we're, like, constantly reminding the students, like, this is where you stand and, like, this is the risk of you continuing down this path.
Can it be possible, I'm sorry, can it be possible when they look at their grades on Power School, how when it reflects their grades, to also have a reflection of their percentage of attendance within it, so it's reachable
I
and?
think that would be lovely. I don't know how that would happen, though.
Well, in DEN, I know DEN teachers are supposed to be during the study hall days. They look at grades for all of the students in their DEN. And so they can see, like on the quick lookup tab in Power School, they see not only their grades, but their tardies and absences as well. So those are conversations that DEN teachers should be having with students. And knowing now about these emails going out, I'll talk to our DEN people and we can try to implement something on a monthly basis and make it more explicit that the kids are, you know, looking for that email, checking their email. That's something that I don't think maybe at the freshman level they do, but at other levels I know, you know, that's something we could improve on, making kids more aware of things like that they should be looking for.
My DEN teacher does a really good job of like, I know it's like a semester check-in, but she's also very like accessible. She's a librarian and, you know, she's just an easy person to talk to, but she makes it a point to like, you know, put your phone away, you know, like get to work. Like, I know you have work to do. Like she pulls, you know, kids will open their backpacks and she'll pull out their Chromebooks and like help them log in. Like it really is like a whole effort, but she does like semester check-ins and, you know, nothing but flying colors for me, but no, I'm just joking. But like she like helps the kids who like really need the help. And I think that like the checking in from somebody like a familiar face is a good idea. I really like the thought of that, especially as like a junior going into her senior year. Like I think people kind of, not the seniors get swept under the rug, but not that they're less important, but like it's just like people are more concerned about like the people who are climbing up rather than the people who are already finished. Like, okay, well, if you're filling out your classes now, like you know, you had 4 years to figure it out, kid. Like, you know, use that brain of yours. But yeah, I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, I'd like to agree on that point. Like, I think I've seen where DEN teachers keep checking in with kids consistently and keep encouraging them to work on their schoolwork during class or even the study hall. Like, you're not allowed to go out into the library if you have like this certain grade or something. So I think the consistent check-ins and like motivation from teachers is super helpful to kids.
Yeah, my DEN teacher also checks on me a lot. Shout out to her. Her name is Miss Hernandez. She gives me candy too. Yeah, she's actually one of the best teachers. Like, she cares for me, and like she's been there for me even in my tough times and my ups and downs, especially for grades, bio, English.
Which should be included into that part of catching up with work with those. You never know.
Yeah.
This one? Yeah. Okay. So, as we mentioned, we've talked a lot about, obviously, interventions. So I'm really excited to talk with all of you about the behavior committee that we have started as part of the MTSS structure. And so we have met 2 or 3 times. We are meeting again this week and again in May. And we have come up with our acronym, which is PRIDE, which stands for the Essential Standards of Behavior that we expect of all students. So this week we will be working on a matrix of what each of those behaviors look like in each of those spaces. But it revolves around the idea of students being prepared, being respectful, having integrity, being disciplined, and being engaged. And so what each of those items look like in each of those spaces. So that is a work in progress. Like I said, we are meeting again this week, and we are explicitly teaching each of those expectations to students and then modeling those expectations in our interactions, colleague to colleague, and then with staff to students as well. So we've talked a lot about this already, but root causes of absences, those really have just come from those conversations with students and their parents. I also took the top 10 students who earned the most tardies from first semester, and I met with all of them that were willing to meet with me, but I extended the invitation to all of them. And so what we have seen, and I was lucky enough to kind of talk about absences at the same time, but it's just lack of motivation. The class is difficult. Hard to get up first period. A lot of kids work till 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock in a restaurant. They close and then are getting home late and then trying to do something academically before going to bed, which then puts them in the 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock hour. And 6:30 to 7 o'clock is a very early start the next day. Some of them said some family responsibilities, but that was overwhelmingly not the answer that we heard the most. If we talk specifically about class cuts, so those are those individual absences, and they said they don't see the value in the class. There is belief that done is optional, and then it's really easy to skip when it's lunch. So, not a surprise there. Related to tardies, they said peers influenced them to arrive mostly late. Several of them said they either were friends with somebody who didn't prioritize their time and or didn't see the value of arriving to class on time, and so they just followed with their friend or even a girlfriend or boyfriend that had them make those choices too. Some of them said they get distracted when they see peers in the hallway and then intended to go to class on time, but then found somebody they knew and then veered off and took the long way. There was a lot of no sense of urgency in trying to get to class on time. I'll just get there when I get there. We're just doing a bell ringer. She's just taking attendance anyway, were some of the comments that I heard. So, like I said, that attendance survey will go through and give us some additional data, and then that data will directly impact the behavior committee decisions that we make, and another point of data for us to continue to consider. So, anything else before we move into our discipline improvement plan?
Is there something that it states if they're a high school student that they shouldn't be working that late?
Age 16, you can get a work permit.
And then that there is
It's
no
not a
like
restricted work permit.
It used to be, but
Well, if you're 16, you're legally able to work. I mean, I was under a work permit at the age of 14, and I was only allowed to work like 6 hours a
It's
week.
limited.
Right. And,
But not the time.
yeah, but not the time of day. I was just limited to like how many hours I could work. And where I work, I worked like 2 hours every day anyway, so.
But we have students that they have a full-time job after school.
That's right.
Are there accommodations in a 504 if a student gets distracted from getting to work on time, class on time? I'm just wondering. Honest, legit question
Yeah,
from
like,
a
I don't-
kid who gets distracted.
Yeah.
I mean, 504s, IEPs are all very personal. I'm trying to think of a situation where I would identify that a student is completely incapable, and that's the only
Yeah.
case where they're incapable,
Well,
is
that's
just
why I'm
getting
asking.
class on time. I think would be more general things like visual schedules, things like
Right.
that. But I don't think we've ever written into a 504, like we don't have like escorts to class, and that's what that would,
Yeah, that's what it would need to be. Okay.
And motivation, have peer interactions, like earn that in order to help them and support them. I mean, if you think about it, social media is taking away of the social piece when their students are not interacting. Adding maybe that part to them, having them socialize and work towards that, especially if that's what's making them tardy, is because they're seeking for that piece. It's important.
I don't know that it was like, I just want to hang out, as more of like, I'm just going to blame them. That was the vibe I got from that particular student, but always good to ask. Okay, so all of you should have a copy of the discipline improvement plan, which was submitted to ISB and was board approved back earlier this semester, maybe February. So Dr. Puello, myself, we have 2 teachers who are both part of our behavior committee. And Penny, we met earlier this semester to go through and discuss. As you can see, it is a very long document. And so there's a lot of information related to suspensions and racial disproportionality. As you move through, we went through academics, chronic absenteeism, all stuff that you've already seen this evening and or previously. And so we looked at what are we going to do to focus. So obviously we submitted this to the Illinois State Board of Ed, so we informed them of our strategic plan, of course, as well as our MTSS behavior timeline. So that's on page 6. And it goes through like month by month of what we have been doing this spring. And then on page 7, it continues through of what we plan to do for next school year. So obviously, a variety of these things I've already talked about this evening, but the SEL focus continues in DEN, opportunities for students to have a restorative conversation following a suspension or a peer conflict is always there. We will work with the behavior committee to look at the data and analyze it to identify those trends, and then use the data that we have from this year more specifically to then go through and figure out when we need to implement those individual DEN lessons to be more proactive, especially with peer conflict, because that tends to drive our reasons for fighting. We will continue to do wonderful things like the Trusted Adult Survey to identify that, continue to have those conversations surrounding absenteeism and how we can continue to help support students and their families. Reach out to our external community agencies to support students, and then we will work on that Tier 1 educational component. I think one of the other things that we have done in the past is we have worked with our feeder districts, and I will mostly call on Lehman because the majority of our students are coming from them, but really trying to identify students that might really need that additional support right off the jump, and how are we getting them in touch with those social workers, making those connections, similar to what Penny said about going to the houses
and getting to know those kids, how are we then getting, our staff getting to know those kids right when school starts, right? How can we work on some of those skills that we might know that they're coming in with a deficit in, so we can try to work on those immediately. Because as we know, freshmen, that jump from 8th grade to freshman year is really tough. I think if we've had several students, more than I feel like we've talked about previously, come from St. John's in Winfield. So that's a very teeny tiny school to then go to 2,000 students. That's a huge jump. So what are we doing to really identify who those kids are, get them on our radar, and support them right from day one? So continue to work with those feeder districts, but really expand that to be even better, is great. We want to continue to review our discipline on a continuous basis, meet monthly through that discipline committee to review those trends, and then continue to use that data to obviously drive our Zen lessons and then our future goals. So if you look on the bottom of page 8, that talks about that MTSS behavior plan that we discussed earlier for the timeline. And then one thing that we have not yet talked about is on page 9, which is the behavior academies. So looking at students who need additional support and then providing those additional lessons during DEN time for the group of students who are demonstrating those ongoing or repeated behaviors. So students who maybe are frequently late to class or late to school, how can we work on prioritization for them? Is it a morning routine issue? What can we do to work on those skills to help them get here? And that's just an example, but because those tend to be our highest ISS numbers. And then we will consider the exploration of alternatives to out-of-school suspensions, as fighting is, obviously our largest makeup of our OSSs in total. So what other things can we do? When talking with the kids, I don't think one of them told me that knowing they were going to be suspended deterred or made them think about it. So what are we doing to reimagine what that looks like? And kind of, Nina, to your point, like what would be a bigger consequence to them, because the OSS maybe not necessarily is. So what else can we do to look at motivating them to display those positive behaviors that we are seeking within our building?
This is kind of just like a random question, but how did you guys decide like who was going to be a part of this like committee and like, hey, like you, let's come on the committee together, like, or like how did that work?
So we have a variety of roles. So obviously it's Ms. Hurtado, it's myself, Ms. Kiesel, Ms. Johnson. We have teachers as well. And ideally, we have like a variety of teachers who teach different subject areas as well as different populations of students. In addition, we would like to bring some of these things to like a student panel to go through and discuss some of those things too. Oh, I feel like.
Does he know we're going to do that? He doesn't know yet. Oh. Neither do you guys.
Oh,
but
okay.
We're just letting you know. You ever
So-
need us, we're right here.
Yeah, so it's a variety of teachers and staff that have a variety of years of experience in the building. Even like Ms. Kiesel over there, she's a psychologist, so she understands functions of behavior. And then Ms. Johnson's really working on like motivating and overcoming those obstacles. We have classroom teachers, we have people who are DEN teachers. So like when we deliver these in DEN lessons, how are kids going to respond to these? You have kids that are less likely to engage in different conversations. What does this look like? Are the kids gonna say, yeah, we're not doing that? Like, we don't want that to happen, right? So.
I think they are.
They are, they totally are.
But that is an additional layer of work that we'll eventually seek to like bring in, right? Because we want like our students to be involved as well in helping us identify, what are the standards for behavior, what are those expected behaviors, but then also helping you teach, we're gonna use you so that you can teach your peers, like what these behaviors are. Because we can say it to purple in the face, right? But it may come a long way if it's like a peer, it's someone who's your age about this. So we wanna tie that in as well, like elevating that student voice and really using that power of peer pressure to motivate students to influence them to engage in some of these positive behaviors that we want to see. So that'll be like an additional layer of work that we will do.
Something to keep in mind, sorry, you guys do a great job with the videos that you've been creating. I love them.
what can
I
we
love
say?
the chemistry.
And we showed up in matching outfits, so just so you guys wanted to know.
I
Isaiah
know,
copied
love
my
it,
outfit.
love it. And so maybe something like this can be presented in those videos, but also not all of the students see the videos, unfortunately. So maybe having them, like students, go into DENS and present in person to DENS might be a good idea as we start, rolling this out a little further.
I mean, another thing that could be touch base with the students is like needs to be realized by parents and like older more mature people.
You looked at me.
I saw it. I know, it's okay.
More mature
It's okay.
people.
Mature.
More
Mature.
mature people. Is that social media is something that's not like running these kids' lives right now, but it's something that really has a big impact, big influence. And like if you, so say like for example, like how me and my dear friend Olivia here does the Friday Fun Day. The kids really like that. I had like over 100 kids that one day came up to me and be like, I know you.
Yeah.
You know? Because it's just like they see it online and they see it during DENS. So I'm just saying like if there is any problems that y'all wanna like get out to like the students.
He's been waiting to say this. Yes,
and not
Oh, yes,
not
we
even,
can do
no,
a
no,
TikTok.
stop,
Student
stop.
We will love that.
No,
We
we're
have
not
that.
doing
We
that.
will love
But
that
just
for
to get out,
attendance.
just got like the person, like the positive influence with the kids, that would be something that would be really fun because I know I had a lot of kids who was like, yo, why is there not like more student-based, like virtual stuff that everyone can see online? Because everyone has Instagram, everyone has
No, they don't.
YouTube, huh?
No, they do not.
Well,
Most.
most.
I agree, most.
It's the kids who like really interact with quote unquote life. Not to put anyone under the bus or anything. But still, I just think that if students were more involved with everything and had like just our feedback, general, just going to all the kids, like there would be like a big improvement, but like a lot of stuff in general. I'm just saying, give me a camera, you got it.
I think it's a great idea that students should be invited to speak in DEN.
Yeah, we also have talked about it, and we're in another committee with the principal too, with Dr. Puello, but we talked about a lot of student involvement. We brought Mr. Jennings in, and of course, like, we don't want to overwork him because, he's only one man with, other things he's got to do or whatever, I don't know. But, but, I think, like, even, like, on a poster, like, if, like, the posters of, like, hey, get your butt to class or whatever they say, like pictures of students like actively engaged in class, like that would make you motivated to go. Like if you saw like a group of your peers like at a concert, you want to go to that concert too because FOMO's a real thing, guys. Like trust me, I would know. But like I feel like having just a familiar face, even like me or Isaiah or Saneha, like people who are engaged in the school actively, who around, like being like, hey, well, Isaiah goes to class, so maybe I should go to class, like, so I think, yeah, just in case you guys need some students.
Can I ask how do the students get involved in a committee? Are they referred by a teacher? Are they sending invitations just overall? How do they get selected, or what's going back to?
Yeah, so the specific committee that Olivia mentioned is a principal advisory, so it's a student principal advisory committee. There was an application process for that, so the students that were interested filled out an application, and then the students were selected through the application process. We will open that up next school year because obviously our committee consists of students from 9th through 12th grade, and so then with our seniors leaving, we will want to bring in additional members. And so that's shared with students during the student announcements. And so then they pick up an application, submit it, and then it was just based off of that application process.
I'm sorry, but what application? I
To be part of the student advisory committee that you're on.
It's because I don't remember like signing up for a student principal advisory committee. Like I just like got invited. I was like, oh, okay.
No, you filled out a form
When?
at the beginning of the year in September.
No,
I was gonna.
It's okay.
Can I ask some questions about some of these pretty
Yes.
graphs?
Yeah.
What other demographics are you looking at? So I see race demographics. Did we look at income demographics? Did we look at the types of classes the students are taking as part of some of these demographics? Meaning honors, not honors, remedial.
Page like 3?
Huh?
Page 3?
I am looking at page 3, I am looking at page 4. Here's an example, on page 3, we're looking at the report card. And the demographics, I see low income, and then I see race demographics, or non-EL, non-English speakers. Okay. Did we look at which feeder schools these are coming from? Did we look at the types of classes that each of these demographics are taking, which may inflate or deflate some of the results? Just other demographics, because this tells one story, but I think there are other stories here.
Yeah, so for this specific report, the reason that we completed this is because we were on the state's for racial disproportionality with respect to discipline. And so part of this report has us analyze our discipline data based on race. And so that is the reason why we had to complete this report, because our students of color were are currently overrepresented in discipline. And so with respect to us being on that, and we are required to submit this document. And so then there was an analysis of that data that we had to do, and then, you know, obviously we connected that to all of the MTSS work, all of the work that we're doing to support, you know, obviously all students.
More than 75% of the school is non-white or of color. I would expect 75% of the disciplinary actions then, if that holds true, 75% should be
correct
non-white students.
Correct.
And this, what I read was, we are still disproportionate by 3%. White students are not getting disciplined by 3%. It has come down.
Right.
But there's still a disproportion of 3%.
Correct.
And this is state dictated?
Yes.
Well, the state's an idiot. Because there are other there are other statistics that tell a different story.
And so that's why when you see these graphs, there is that like focus on like the racial demographic, because that's, you know, part of it is looking at like our demographics by race. But we also did include our EL population and low income, because we know, and also our special education population, just because from looking at our data, you know, we do see that we see some trends there as well.
And in your special education population, that makes perfect sense to me. They have more doctor's appointments, they have more therapies, and they get pulled out more for other life things. And in certain special education settings, they're not being taught out of a textbook. So to miss a day for a doctor's appointment you can't schedule that you have to go into Chicago for is no big deal. So the IEP actually made a lot of sense to me. I thought it would be higher. But I would just like to see, as a school district, we should look at additional demographics. There's not just race and English speaking or not English speaking. There's other stuff I think we all should be considering. And when you made the comment about St. John's, Benjamin's tiny too. There was 80 students in 8th grade that were coming into a school of 2,000. So they seem to be thriving, the Benjamin kids. I think the Winfield kids also, tiny school, smaller than Benjamin, coming in here and they did okay. So what makes St. John's different?
I'm just saying, like, it's just, I've had more conversations around I don't know if we just happen to get more St. John's kids. You know what I mean?
Rhetorical question.
Okay,
Kind of thing. But I'd like to see different demographic. I understand what the state requires. Stupid. There are other demographics. Okay.
I was just gonna suggest for the committees for the students, because again, working in SRC, I do have those kids that were chronic absences or things, and they are doing very good. And I think we need those kids in that panel, because you guys obviously are thriving and you guys have all that, but it's good to hear from the one that wasn't and the one that can relate to those kids, because if I would be chronic and I see you, I don't see myself in you guys. So I would open up, like I want to say, I'm going to speak as staff, as teachers. We all know that student that was not doing great, but that once, you got connected or they got connected with somebody, they're flying and they don't get recognized a lot, obviously by the teachers yet, but in something like this, I think they're not there. And I would suggest that you guys can consider like the feedback of the teachers and so like that, they could be there.
It could be very important input from a student, like you said, that can reflect on that and speak up and be willing to speak up and said this or even more too, because
it's a very good
peer
point.
mentoring program?
We used to have that in SRC, but I think Abbott is starting something like that. I heard it.
Currently not in place. No.
Valuable here, and I think I'd like to see also or hear more about, and I know I'm probably early for the future discussions or items, but as you said, I think that's such a good point to all acknowledge that every feeder district, it's different students coming in, and I think for us to really understand the kids that are coming in holistically, we need to kind of understand what the high school is also doing to articulate and collaborate with those feeder districts, what that looks like, and also too, how we're approaching that, again, going back to that sense of belonging and welcoming to those students differently, because they are coming from such a different, completely different demographic.
As a Benjamin kid, I mean, I felt like not that communication was like bad, but like also like I felt left out, because like I had friends who went to Lehman and they talked about all the opportunities they had to like, I mean, not that we didn't have like the step up day and like the other like 8th grade open house, but like there was a lot more like intent to reach out with like the Lehman kids, and I understand like that is your biggest population, that is your biggest feeder school, but like that doesn't mean that like Benjamin didn't have behavioral problems that could have been addressed like way before. So I just think that like maybe like a representative for Lehman and a representative for Benjamin and then Winfield, and then maybe you could have like an other category for, those kids who, had been coming from St. John's, or I know kids who moved from J Stream to come to West Chicago, like something to make sure those kids like, and I know it's hard to accommodate for every student because like obviously there's 2,000 of us and, sometimes we're just all one blended face, but to make sure like those smaller like groups of people can like acclimate accordingly is what I guess I'm trying to say.
I know there was a comment back here.
I do want to comment on that too. I do appreciate that. My kids they are the only kid that comes from their school. And so we have 5 kids. So we have our 4th one coming in this fall, and he will be the only child that he knows in the building. So it's really a difficult transition, and there's definitely a gap for homeschoolers or for people that co-school coming into West Chicago. So I definitely see that gap. But I'm wondering if we have success stories that we utilize and capitalize on in order to show those kids as a model. Like somebody was saying that, if you have your students that are your go-getters, the world is really made for extroverts. I'm an extrovert. It's a lot easier for me to navigate the world than it is for even my extroverted children versus my introverted children. They just get noticed because they're super comfortable putting themselves out there. But when you have like kids that are not going to see an opportunity that's put out there through the videos that they're seeing or their den classes, they really do need teachers that are saying, like, I saw a spark in you. You might be a good fit for something like this. And then do we have those kids that we're tracking that, are we able to track the percentage the kids are jumping in improvement with attendance? Because if we have those kids, then those are the ones that we pull in a little bit closer, we wrap ourselves around a little bit, and then we track their success. And those are the kids that are saying, like, hey, I was that kid that was coming to school like maybe once a week, or I had like 80% of the time I was not going to class. And by sophomore year, I got that up to 70. And are we really boosting those kids that we're seeing huge improvements in and then utilizing them as an example for their peers?
I guess one thing that I don't know about the last one, how to give any good answer on that one, but the first part, I know that we have 2 counselors that are focused on any new incoming students where it's a bit more of a unique situation. Then they collaborate on what is that welcoming process. So I've seen a little bit of it. I've definitely watched the 2 of them multiple times throughout the year say, hey, we got another one. Okay, great. And then they kind of go into action. So yeah, and if you want to connect with them more, then I can connect you.
Well, they're fortunate. Their parents are educators, so we kind of go for it. We're like, hey, what are we going to do for our kid when they get here by themselves on their first day? But, yeah.
All right, so we're gonna jump into like our last agenda topic, which is future topics. So as we look ahead, are there any topics that committee members would like to suggest for discussion at a future meeting?
Yes. From own experience, when my son was coming into high school, and while he went through diagnosis and he was diagnosed, he was put in to take the access testing, and this poor kid struggled with speech and of course was never ever able to speak or speak Spanish, and it was difficult. So he always took therapies and classes, everything just in English, and he was stuck in this access testing. When he took that last access testing in 8th grade, and they look into that for placement in his classes here at the high school, it was shocking to see that he was put in a shelter class where he doesn't belong. And it's something that I really want to bring up today and make sure that all those kids who are taking that access test and have not been able to pass, I noticed that when I talk to parents and their students have their strength, for sure, the class that they have most difficulty with either speaking or writing. So there is something a little bit more behind that, something maybe that students go unnoticed, whereas such as some of them might be undiagnosed even with dysgraphia, dyslexia, who knows? Because that's something that I don't think they're focused on. And the placement for those students, it's really not motivating them and knowing that they know they don't belong in that class. And for us who notice, but how about for the ones whose parents don't really understand that path? It's something that I will monitor, like now that you guys are going to be looking into data, how many of those students are still taking that test and how many of those students are being stuck in that, because that's a big red sign. And those students, if they remain in that path, they're completely going in the pathway for feeling not motivated and feeling that they're going to fail and they're not going to make it, because of course classes are getting difficult as they go. So I feel something that is very important to look into it. And I know they get placed depending on the test that they take in 8th grade. And what else how are teachers also putting input for the teachers here at high school to make sure that those kids are performing a little bit more higher. Sometimes I feel those tests, when they take them on their Chromebooks, doesn't really reflect the whole student. And I want to make sure that there is a way that they can look at the whole student and not just at that number to placing them in their classes, because I feel that might be lacking their motivation, knowing that they might not be with their friends. They know, most of them, the students, they know each other. They know who is with you, and when you feel that your friend is moving up and you're down here because of a grade that they receive and is reflecting for them to be placed in a class, I feel that's maybe somehow part of that motivation that they lose when they come into high school.
Inappropriate placement because it's a standardized test? Is that what you're getting at?
So the access test is when we fill out the registration. When we fill out the ad, we have to say, what's your first language? Is it Spanish or is it English? Of course, we put down Spanish because we speak our main language. And then for that, then they have to take that access testing to make sure that when they are taking those classes, that they are dominant in English, that they can read it, they can write it, they can hear it. Now, imagine if your son has a challenge. How will they ever? It's like you're giving a blind person a test to see. How are you expecting to?
Standardized tests are bad.
Yes. So in that, I'm asking to see if many of the students might be I want to know the data too, like how many of those students are still stuck in taking that test, because that's a red flag. What is it that the student needs? Because they cannot be putting classes depending on that too.
Or are there alternatives to placement that is not just based on an access test, which may be appropriate for English speakers or good test takers, but not for non-English speakers primarily, and people who don't do well on standardized tests?
Yeah, just like the PSATs that they take on 8th grade, they're going to still perform not to their best, but I'm just asking for a way that teachers' input is as most important and, when compared to those tests, and I just go by those.
Replacement doesn't rely solely on that test. How about that?
So I can speak to that as a sheltered and bilingual science teacher. Every year, we have to write out our recommendations for each student on what class they should move on to. And these are discussions that we have on a regular basis with the exact same concerns, because we see students who, maybe are taking the access test for the same reason, because they simply can't pass it. They've been taking it since 1st grade. Or kindergarten, exactly. And there maybe is some, undiagnosed, unrecognized, learning challenge that they have. So again, these are discussions we have on an ongoing basis every single year. And so what we do is we look for the best placement for that student with regards to their learning. So in sheltered classes, they're obviously going to receive that language support, but they're also going to receive slightly modified lessons as well. So maybe they don't necessarily need the language support, but maybe they need some minor modifications. And for some students who don't need that at all, who we see that they can they can work at the same level as their gen ed peers, then we do push them out of sheltered classes as we see they should be recommended, because there are plenty of students who are have the designation of ESL, or where they're still taking the access test, who are not in sheltered or bilingual classes and are doing just well or working on level with their gen ed peers. So it really is a lot of work that we do on a regular basis, but sometimes
and then that's like that would be like in a in an ELA class, but for example in a literature class. But for example, how about the across all subjects like social studies, history, all those those kids can go under seat, and I want to make sure that they have a voice. That I feel my feeling right now is that I'm guessing that motivation is part of that, because like I said, they compare to other peers. They have classes, so many classes together. For example, at Lehman, their combination is like it's a diverse group of students. And then they know whose student is taking an advanced class. They know which student is getting that extra support. And when those students get put in those classes, it's sometimes not necessarily because they need it. If it probably wasn't for the support that we have gotten here at the high school, probably my son will be failing, to be honest, because I look at their test and I know sometimes when they do even Google Forms to use for testing, for those assessments, it doesn't really reflect. Because I noticed that one of them, for example, they have to do a written part of the answer in a Google form. He has dysgraphia. He spelled the word wrong. The answer was wrong, but what he was trying to say was correct. And that's even though if it looks like something little, and these kids are getting assessed through, math testing, all those PSATs, all those, and how is that data really reflecting the student as a whole?
Just to really quickly touch on that topic, this year our ML director did work with like the 8th grade director over at the different buildings to make sure that placement was based off of multiple measures, not just simply using access, but for that reason, because we know we have a lot of students who are still identified as being English language learners, but language is not necessarily something that needs to be supported, and making sure that even though our students are language learners, they still have access to our full curriculum. So that's really been a priority. And the other thing that I'll also add is one of the things that is going to be starting very soon is we're working to do a full program review of our ML programming that looks at placement, that looks at the courses that we're offering to ensure that we're offering a very robust programming for multilingual learners that really looks at all those various pieces, because we do have sheltered courses, we have bilingual courses, but ensuring that, it's aligned to standards, that there's appropriate placement, that we've identified what's the criteria for placement in those courses and what support looks like, with the goal of having students ideally transition into general instruction classes. So that's some of the work that we've started, and so excited about, more of that to come.
I think peer mentoring should be a future topic.
Okay.
I really do. We have We Go Buddies for our special friends, and that really helps our special friends. They feel included, and they get to interact more with more neurotypical individuals. I think someone who's going to class all the time can go grab their buddy and make sure their butts are in their classes. And they can be used as motivation. Students are going to motivate students more than an adult is going to motivate a student. Teens don't want to listen. They know everything. And they do. They really know everything. We know nothing. We didn't live it. We didn't do it. We didn't nothing. But I think a student mentoring program, whether students speak in Den, whether students grab a buddy who is struggling, I think that would be very beneficial. And help with social stuff too.
I feel the social piece has to be brought up, because it seems too that, with all technology and everything, it's an essential skill that they need, and the students, they need to be able to socialize, but socialize in a healthy way.
Yeah, and not text all the time. They actually have to talk.
One thought I had, I don't know how likely this is, might require a, redesign of IDs, but if we have students' lunch hours on their ID, that'll be an easy way for staff to walk by and say, hey, where are you supposed to be? Oh, I have lunch. We don't know how to verify that unless we have our laptops there to look up their schedule. So that might be something to have, like a big, 6-hour lunch. Also, if they have blended classes as well, because sometimes students have learned that, oh no, I'm in blended right now. Well, okay, because we don't know how to verify that.
So every student on their 5-star app has their lunch period, and if they're in a blended class. It's on every student's.
But it's on the app, it's not on their
It's
physical
on the app,
IDs.
not the physical ID.
So could we possibly get it on their physical ID?
The problem becomes is the printing and the long, like how far ahead those have to be ran to be printed. And then if something happens, like a level change or something, and then it changes their lunch period, and seniors usually with like government, consumer ed, their lunch periods change at semester. So through the digital ID, it's very easy to do, and we have been doing it.
Little lunch bag that
It's
has-
cute, I made it.
I was the guinea pig. I had every single lunch period at one point, and I used it to my advantage. No, I'm just joking. I didn't. I'm not a bad kid. But yeah, I think it's easier to do it on the phone because like you could be like, okay, now show me your 5-star, and like I think it's just easier to do it digitally.
That's what I'm gonna say.
Oh, they're gonna complain
There's
about the
already
lines.
talks of it.
The
There's
line
already
to get in the
talks of it.
lunchroom, the line to get their lunch, and now I only have 5 minutes to eat. Because they only have, what, 20 minutes?
I have time, the
Yeah,
lunch
we do
line.
like
It's like
They get through
30
pretty
seconds.
quickly.
Yeah, my kid skips lunch and goes to the library.
Yeah.
Told you.
I was gonna
Nerd.
ask, around how many staff does the lunches have? Like how many staffs do you?
So this year, we were able to add more lunch supervisors because we removed security so that they could be walking the halls more, because we used to have security covering the entrances of the commons. And so we removed them and replaced them with lunch supervisors. So I want to say, my brain's not working, it's like 6 or 7. I did not mean to do that, 7 or 8.
Now, do they have job specific of what they're doing? Because I'm
Yes.
saying it because when I used to work in Limon, it was just 2 of us. And I think it takes you a month to know who really belongs in the, and like if you're really like, obviously, because we would call and you walk around and meet the people. And then it takes you a month or 2 to really know who they are. And for you recognize who's not supposed to be there. But at the same time, if you're not told that that's kind of your job, then I'm thinking then you're just there.
I do like a little mini presentation where I kind of go over the rules and expectations that we have of lunch supervisors. And
They have
then,
assigned areas, too,
and
that
they have
they're in.
assigned areas of where they're supposed to stand. And that kind of helps because if they're in a specific spot each time, they start to learn the kids that sit around that. And they're like, wait, this group of 5 kids is all of a sudden a group of 8. These 3 faces are not familiar. So that kind of helps. But yeah. And then we have one person who is assigned to lunch attentions. So then they go and cover lunch attention.
Things, and I really appreciate the fact that the 4 of you had the idea or the commitment to exploring and continue. I'm lucky enough to work in education to know that there's that magical equation that we can apply where we're going to be successful. I really just want to acknowledge that this committee has been. I also definitely something resonated with me as somebody was saying, the value of all these different. Definitely do want to say and go back to the fact that like that piece of just understanding that so many of our students are so different and so diverse and so special and with a completely different background. And I think that the opportunity for this committee to kind of understand that and plan for that and understand it in a whole different way. And the fact that we've acknowledged some wins along the way that we definitely should celebrate, and the opportunity to again remain open to kind of exploring new ideas. But I also would be remiss to not say that I do think that one thing that really I feel is valuable and pertinent to this conversation is that I'm lucky enough to really find really good people along the way that me accountable that are still in this building, that I'm very lucky to have met them when I was young, and there are people that still hold me accountable and ultimately pushed me to you know, this track and this profession. And so I really do think that representation is huge. I think the value of connection is huge, because again, those are the connections that really hold you accountable. You know, those coaches, those teachers, people in this room that have helped my kids stay accountable, that, you know, that know them by face. I really do think that makes a huge difference. I do really like the idea about the lunchroom, because I think that when somebody, that again, you have to look at them, you have to see them on a daily basis. And, you know, if they saw you in the morning and then they don't see that you're in their class later on that day, I mean, that's just, you know, you have to walk into that classroom the next day. So even with those students that are not making it to class, understanding, like, again, there's always gonna be somebody, and whether it is a peer, great. But I also think that as educators and adults in the building, we can, you know, build and foster that connection to a trusted or 3 trusted adults in the building. So I definitely don't want to go without saying that, because again, it's something that I feel like I have experienced and have been fortunate enough to experience still today. So, but thank you so much. Again, I do feel like there's so many valuable topics and discussion today, but I really appreciate the willingness to continue to remain open and willing to explore new things.
Gotta say is I have 8th period lunch, and honestly, I think we need more food, because I'm sorry. No, hold on.
I was gonna say that you guys ran out of the good options, sort of.
Yeah, it's because every time when I'm trying to order a panini, they might say, "Oh, we ran out of chicken," and there's no chicken tenders left. There's barely any fries. I'm like, there's barely anything to eat. They taken all the rest of the lunch periods of, yeah.
I second that, Dylan.
Yeah, my bad. I'm sorry, but they took all the food. I'm like, I'm hungry, low key. Like, I don't just want to eat like hot Cheetos every day. Like, that's
You can talk to the cafeteria.
hot Cheetos, Takis,
Absolutely.
Gatorade, something. I was like, I want like real food, like an actual.
You can bring your lunch, right?
I'm too lazy.
That is a good
Oh.
answer.
See, I could say something right now, and I know half of these teachers might say this too. I'm Gordon Ramsay. I make my own food.
Very true.
Yeah.
It's very true.
And
It does.
some kid just needs to, like, get in the mindset. Okay, if you don't get lunch at school, start making your own lunch. Ask your parents for $20. You get $20. You get. I can make a grocery with $20. That's just.
Oh, yeah. Good
But
job.
They look great.
quote unquote, I'm from the Caribbean, so I know how to make Caribbean food. That's how.
Smells delicious.
You're gonna come over, I'll pay you to cook, I'll buy the ingredients you can enjoy, so I don't have to do it one night. That'd be fantastic.
Can I just say one last thing to add to what Ms. Munoz was saying? I mean, a lot of the people here do such amazing work, students included, administrators, you guys do phenomenal work. It's you know, sometimes a thankless job in a sense, you know, because we work ungodly hours some weeks, most weeks, and you know, sometimes we don't see the you know, the fruitfulness of what we do immediately. And so everybody does such amazing work. So thank you to everybody. One thing, though, I would like to say to kind of help, I know teachers as well, sometimes the burden of putting in all this effort, it's taxing for sure. You know, Isaiah talks about having, you know, those students who don't get a lot of sleep at night because they work. Well, for those of us in education, it's the same thing. You know, we're here until whatever time we finally leave the building, and then we're working until late at night, and sometimes even when we're in the building, we don't, Isaiah, you know, sometimes I don't eat lunch, right? So like, or we don't make it to the bathroom or something. But anyway, to that point, I'd like to see if we could have a little bit more collaboration amongst committees. Because like hearing it from the attendance PLT and the behavior PLT, we're on a strategic group committee that we've been on for 2 years maybe? And we've been doing a lot of work and, coming up with ideas related to attendance and sense of belonging. And then just this year, I found out there's an attendance PLT, and I was like, well, wait, maybe they have similar ideas. Maybe we can bounce ideas off of each other. And I feel like if there's more communication about what committees are in existence and like the specifics that they're working on, then it won't be, so many of us just kind of, turning our gears and not really going anywhere. Whereas if we're all collaborating, we can maybe get to that end goal a little quicker.
As a parent of a senior, I want to thank everybody. The 4 years, actually, we've been here 8 years, right? The 8 years both of my kids have gone through have been unbelievable. I wouldn't change the experience for the world. And I have opposite ends of the spectrum. I have a kid with an IEP who his school day is learning and living skills. And I have a self-proclaimed nerd who is not social at all and just keeps to themselves or their small group of in-class friends. I appreciate the students having the courage to speak up.
How many times are we gonna fist bump in the span of this
The
meeting?
parents who are involved, the committee members, the teachers, I know how hard you guys work, because I know what a pain in the butt my kid is. But I appreciate the district for its diversity and its attempt to deal with so many different situations because of the diversity. That is hard, and I appreciate it, and I wouldn't have changed it for the world.
I also appreciate the way that you look at that diversity as opportunity instead of a stumbling block, because I've always felt that we know that we're special because of what we are and what we have, and then we use that as an opportunity to grow and be better, and that we're always collaborating. So I'm really grateful for that.
As the kids say, clock it.
All right. Don't you guys go 6'7"?
Oh, that's too low.
All right, so if there's no further business, is there a motion to adjourn? Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
It has been seconded that we adjourn the meeting. All those in favor, please say aye. The motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
There you go. Is the volleyball team still happening? We got to they were late.
Oh, were they?
Yeah, there was like an hour and a half late. It was from the
Riverside Brookfield.
Where's the closest washroom?
I know.